Hello everyone, my name is Velia Priska.
And my name is Brigita Evelyn. We are from Tax Accounting Department, Petra Christian University, and we are glad to be here with you today.
We are going to give you a presentation about our paper with the title The Effect of Technology and Spirituality Dimensions on Taxpayers' Compliance During COVID-19. As we all know, COVID-19 affects every aspect in our lives. Not only does it threaten our health, but also has severe negative impacts on the global economy, including Indonesia. COVID-19 pandemic caused the country's economy to experience depression, which finally resulted in a decrease in state revenue. The decrease in state revenue mainly caused by the decrease in tax revenue, since it contributes at about 78% of our state revenue. One of the reasons for decreased tax revenue is tax incentives that's given to help people in distress during a pandemic. In order to increase tax revenue, we have to improve taxpayers' compliance because it is an important factor to realize tax revenue targets. Tax compliance refers to the extent to which individuals or organizations comply with tax laws and regulations. In previous studies, we found that tax compliance is affected by internal and external factors. The internal factor, of course, coming from the taxpayer himself. On the contrary, external factor is coming from outside the taxpayer. For example, the situation and environment.
First of all, we are going to explain about external factor. Quality of tax services is one of the external factors that affects tax compliance. Previous study conducted by Anggraini states that taxpayer who is satisfied with the services provided by the government tends to perform his tax obligation in accordance with rules and regulations available. As you all know, according to SE 26 PG 2020, the Directorate General of Taxes decided to shut down temporarily the tax service offices in Indonesia. So everything related to fulfilling tax obligations should be done through optimization of electronic facilities provided by the government. Ilham and Hayan in their study states that tax modernization is a tax reform program that is applied systematically. Modernization is also marked by new applications that will help taxpayers in fulfilling their tax obligations. There are ESPT, e-filing, e-registration, and DGT information system. In this study, we will test if the modernization of tax administration system has an influence on taxpayers' compliance during COVID-19.
Previously, we said that tax compliance is affected by internal and external factors. Let's discuss about the internal ones. Internal factors that encourage taxpayers to comply come from the behavior and habits of taxpayers that are triggered from their spiritual beliefs. In this study, we will focus more about their spirituality beliefs. Spirituality is very personal to each person, so it really depends on the level and importance of religion in each person's life. Previous study conducted by Widuri in 2017 states that taxpayer who upholds spiritual values in his life will most likely to fulfill his tax obligation in accordance with regulations available. In the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, many people face financial problems that can be a factor for someone to avoid fulfilling their tax obligations. The presence of spiritual factor will be useful in understanding if taxpayers use their conscience in performing tax obligation. We are using Christianity approach on spirituality dimensions. There is a teaching called the law of sowing and reaping, which states that everything we carry out has an effect. It's kind of similar with the law of karma. If we sow good things, then we will also reap good things and vice versa. In this study, we will test if the law of sowing and reaping has an influence on taxpayers' compliance during COVID-19.
Tax administration system is expected to provide convenience and comfort for taxpayers. This is namely as an effort to build a sense of justice that can increase taxpayers' compliance. This modernization adapts technological advances to e-system services like ESPT and e-filing. All of these systems hopefully can facilitate taxpayers in fulfilling their tax obligations. The modernization of tax administration system in Indonesia is an interesting topic to talk about since it is still developing each and every day. The DGT has always been trying to modernize the system since 2005. The goal is to facilitate taxpayers in carrying out their tax obligations, so the taxpayers do not need to come to the office because it can be done online, and also it accelerates the transaction process since the data is sent directly to the DGT. But it kinda didn't work the way they wanted because taxpayers back then still didn't understand how to use it and felt more comfortable if it was done directly. Previous study conducted by Sentanu and Budiarta in 2019 stated that the modernization of tax services has a positive effect on taxpayers' compliance. Ilham and Hayan also said that this modernization encouraged taxpayers to be more obedient. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic spread out, taxpayers had the option to perform their tax obligation offline. But now we are in a situation where we are advised to stay at home as much as we can to stop the spreading of the COVID-19. Therefore, taxpayers should perform their tax obligation online through tax application that we have already. The convenience of accessing tax information and services online should be able to bring the public closer to their tax obligations.
As we know, spirituality is a foundation of human behavior. Damayanti in 2018 stated that people who uphold spiritual values in their lives liable to conduct good things by obeying the values as well as obeying to pay taxes. Spirituality makes a person desire to always do good, so it can be an important role to make taxpayers to be responsible to their tax obligations. In the study, we will take sowing and reaping law as the base of the spirituality values. It is written in the Bible in Galatians chapter 6 verse 7. For what a man sows he will also reap, which means what you do will come back to you. It is also written in the Matthew chapter 7 verse 12. So in everything do to others what you would have them to do you. This concept is telling us that each of our actions has consequences. If we if we do good, then good things will come back to us. Otherwise, if we do bad things, then bad things will happen to us. This is a little bit similar to the law of karma. In the context of taxation, the sowing and reaping law will make people afraid to make mistakes or fraud because it will come back to them again. If a person intentionally not doing tax calculation and other tax crimes, bad things will happen to the person for his bad conducts. In the COVID-19 pandemic, people who uphold this spiritual value would still instill this value in him. This is stated at a study in 2008 conducted by Dharmawanti, which states that a person with a high religiosity level will be better in dealing problems in a stressful condition. So this is the hypothesis in our study. The first hypothesis is the modernization of tax administration system had a positive and significant impact on taxpayers' compliance during COVID-19 pandemic. The second hypothesis is the sowing and reaping law has a positive and significant impact on taxpayers' compliance during COVID-19. We also included the research model beside it.
We took 100 respondents as our samples in this study. The criteria of the respondents are those who conduct business and adhere to Christianity or Catholicism. We used questionnaire and was distributed to all of the respondents through Google Forms in August 2020. The questionnaire uses Likert scale from 1 to 5. 1 is strongly agree, 2 is agree, 3 is neutral, 4 is disagree, and 5 is strongly disagree. For the measurement, we use structural equation model using the Smart PLS3 application.
The table that can be seen in the slide is a descriptive statistics that's used to provide an overview or description of data seen from the mean, median, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum. The mean value of each variable shows the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. The higher the mean value of a variable, the stronger the impact on the dependent variable. In this table, we can see that the mean value of modernization variable is higher than the sowing and reaping law variable.
The path coefficient shows whether the independent variable affects positively or negatively on the dependent variable. Modernization variable shows a result of 0.41 and sowing and reaping law variables shows a result of 0.38. This means both variables have positive impacts on taxpayers' compliance because they are in interval of 0 to 1. Modernization affects taxpayers' compliance positively by 41%, and sowing and reaping law influences on taxpayers' compliance by 38%. Both p-values and t-statistics shows the significance of the variables. P-values under 0.001 means that the variable impact is significant. Meanwhile, the significance standard for t-statistics is 1.984, which means that modernization and sowing and reaping law significantly influence the taxpayers' compliance.
So this research investigates the impact of tax administration system modernization and sowing and reaping law to the taxpayers' compliance during COVID-19 pandemic. Based on the statistic test that has been conducted, it is proven that modernization of tax administration system has positive and significant impacts to taxpayers' compliance. Our respondents feel that this modernization through many kind of online platforms is convenient in performing their tax application during COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, these research results also show that sowing and reaping law has positive and significant impact to the taxpayers' compliance during COVID-19. Even though in COVID-19 pandemic period, many suffered difficulty, both physical and spiritual, this spirituality is being held by the taxpayer to always meet their obligation to the nation.
That's all for the presentation today.
We hope that our presentation will be useful to you. Thank you and have a nice day.